What is up, YouTube? I am back, and for whatever reason, YouTube Playables have restarted my account all the way over. Um, so I'm still gonna play this game and try to unlock everything like I normally was planning to do. But I think I'm gonna take the channel to a different direction where I just kind of use this as like therapeutic time, just kind of rant and rave, right? Because life's hard, right? Life's hard. Um, and sometimes you need something just to kind of vent and just complain and just rant. And why not rant to the cyberspace, right? That's what everyone else does. So I might as well rant and do my stuff too. I don't know why this has no sound. Let me try to figure it out for you guys really quick. Oh, because it's muted. So yeah, I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. It's super loud in my ears. But should be kind of low in your guys' ears. So let's just keep it going, okay? I'm gonna turn down a little bit more. Okay, go. Yeah, so I'm just gonna play and rant. And the reason why I'm doing that is because today was just one of those days where I'm just like, bro, all the things that we do in life just doesn't seem like it's enough. Especially as like being a guy, right? Especially if you have like a lot more traditional and conservative values. You hold yourself to a really high standard. You always want to make sure you're there for your family and for your friends. And when you're not able to do that fully in a full capacity, you're just like, where did I go wrong? Especially when you're a person where you're like high achieving and you're just like, why is it taking so long to get to the goal that I want to get to? I'm not gonna go into specifics to dox myself, but yeah, so it's just it's frustrating to say the least. Because I just think about the fact that I've worked so hard for like the last 10 plus years, and I'm nowhere near the goals that I want to. Of course, we have crazy skyrocketing like inflation here in the U.S. Of course, it slowed down some, but it doesn't stop the fact that prices already are what they are. And then, of course, you have emergencies that pop up, and then you have like compounding effects of the fact that you already made mistakes in the past. So you have to correct those in addition to deal with new issues. And it's just like, bro, when do I ever get a break? You see all of these people on social media. Uh, seem like they say they've gone through the thick and the thin. They went through the trenches, and it's just hard to believe. I know that some people have their come up stories, but it's just not motivating, to be honest. It's more frustrating because you're thinking that okay, if I just keep my head down long enough, I'll get there. And 10 years go by, like I'm still not there. What happened? And it's just frustrating. I just go for it. Be reckless. And it's not like to say woe's me. I'm still grateful for the position that I'm in. Right? Grateful for opportunities, grateful for progress, grateful to be able to get an education, grateful to have things set up for a new path, but it's just like it doesn't seem like it ever comes in time when you actually need it. Upgrade, upgrade. I don't like the kunais. The kunais aren't really that helpful. Yeah. Well, they're giving it to me for free, so I guess I might as well use them, right? But yeah, so that's what me. That's what I'm ranting about. And I think like the goal should always be just like to be the best person in general you can be. But the only thing I can talk about is being a man because that's what I am, right? So I can't give any other insights on that. I think in a day and age where we have two polar opposite visions of what people think a real man is, one on the other end where you think you're supposed to be completely passive and weak, and no one, you're not supposed to say anything, offend anyone, do anything. You're not allowed to be a man at all, which I think is also really stupid. But I also don't think that we have to be in a situation where we're going to be excessively. Um, you have the other end, you have the more toxic masculinity side of things, where you're supposed to be domineering, running over everyone, taking whatever you want, pillaging, destroying, burning, and taking whatever you want. That's also not good. Um, so yeah, so I tend to live life from a more balanced and more, I guess, Christian perspective, just because that's my worldview. That's the thing that matters most to me. I tend to make sure that everything comes from that one space. So some people might like it, some people might hate it, but it is what it is. It's how I view the world, it's how I engage with it, how I advise people who come to me for advice for other things that may be able to answer their questions for. And sometimes when I just look at the biblical standards of manhood, it's hard. And I think it pushes you to be great, yes, because now you're accountable, you're diligent, you have integrity, um, you're driven, but it's exhausting when that expectation is there for you. And that's not to say that I don't like having high expectations. Even before I truly gave my life to God as a young child, I always wanted to be the best. I think I was my own worst critic. I was always the person hardest on myself. I remember being really, really young and being upset that I didn't get like a perfect score on an exam where I expected perfection. And that was never something that was put on me as a child. Like my mom never told me, "Oh, if you don't get 100%, I'll disown you. It's dishonoring your whole family." That was never the expectation. It was always just to do my best. If my best was a C, if my best was a D, it is what it is. But for me, I was like, no, if I can attain perfection, let me get it. So I've always had high expectations. Maybe that's probably why I seem to be disappointed most of the time, I guess. Um, Even though I tell myself I plan for the worst, you expect nothing out of the world, you expect everything to go wrong. So you plan for the worst, but hope for the best. But it's so hard because you always have people telling you, you put in the work, you put in the hours, you master your craft, you do X, Y, and Z. And when it just doesn't fall through, it's hard not to be disappointed. So hard. So just kind of just ranting out there, just letting people know that you're not the only one. Life gets hard. Doesn't always go exactly as planned. And yes, it can be frustrating, but life goes on, right? I need my full $300 here. Where did I miss? Whatever. But yeah, so that's just me, um, ranting and raving while playing some games, which I think sometimes is good. Like sometimes you need a decompression moment, and then you have to get back to work because that's exactly what we do after this. Get back to work, grinding, and still aiming for my goal, right? Because at the end of the day, if I just stop and give up completely, I'm definitely not gonna get there. So me complaining doesn't mean I'm gonna stop and give up completely, but definitely means that I might have to change some things around, change my approach, shift my mindset a little bit, look at things a little bit different, be a little bit more open minded, take a step back, and just kind of reevaluate life, right? I guess another way I can think about it as well is just the fact that it could just be God just trying to make sure that I stay humble. Realistically, reminding myself that I'm not ish. If I try to depend only on myself, I'm always going to be disappointed. I should only be depending on Him. That could be another thing I could just be reminded of. The reason why I'm not getting the level of success that I see on social media or the people that I'm around who's been able to achieve really crazy things. And it's not that I'm less motivated, that I'm less intelligent, that I'm less willing to work. Because anyone who knows me will let you know that I'm willing to grind, I'm willing to work all nighters. No matter what I'm doing, I'm putting 110% to make sure the best product's coming out possible. So it's not a work ethic thing. It's not a sacrifice thing. Lord knows that I've sacrificed a lot. So it's none of those things. Hard work does not equal success. At least hard work alone. Um, Tried smart work. I've tried investing in mentors. I've tried investing in coaching. I've tried putting my money where my mouth is, paying for things where I can learn from other people's mistakes. Doesn't seem to be the shortcut. I can probably say that I've invested. And also, I don't really remember where I was going. Where I was going with the last part of this convo. Oh yeah, I was probably talking about the fact that it could just be the fact that I'm not reaching the levels I want to reach, is because God wants to make sure that I stay humble, right? That I don't feel like I can do everything on my own, and He's trying to remind me that everything that comes that's good that comes from Him, right? So some people who have no desire to serve God, He's going to bless them greatly, and for every person, there's going to be something different. So I think that it could just be part of the part of the journey that I have to endure. Because I think at some point we all have to suffer. Suffering will be different. Suffering will be a part of life, but I think I think that for me, it doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it any easier to swallow that pill. I think suffering is going to be a part of it, regardless. Knowing you have to suffer, knowing that God's going to bring you through it, makes it, I guess, makes it easier pill to swallow, but it just doesn't make it easier to endure. It's like knowing that a needle's going to hurt, but it doesn't make the pain any less painful, right? Still experience the full pain, the full suffering of it, even though you already know what to expect. Um, so yeah, so it's just an interesting space to be in mentally. Um, and then also knowing that we live in a world that has like actual cause and effect mechanics, right? You know that in most cases, if you do something, something comes up. You punch a person, the person is likely to respond. There's actual laws of cause and cause and effect inside the world. And then sometimes it's just frustrating when you see other people do the same thing or do less than you do, and then are able to leverage and push out more. But as I always say, and I always tell people, I acknowledge the world's not fair, and that doesn't bother me too much because my goal is always to make the world as unfair and as biased in my effect in my direction as possible. To me, I'm like the unfairness is not the issue. The problem is trying to figure out how do I push that into my own advantage, right? That is the ultimate goal. Not to make the world 100% fair because it never will be, but how do I leverage it into my favor? Because I definitely have skills and skill sets that are way better than most for some things. And so now the goal is to figure out how do I really leverage how do I fully leverage it? And I just haven't really figured that out yet. But hopefully at some point I will. It's not that I'm getting any younger, I guess. One part to think about is I am 30. People expect you to start getting your life together around 30, right? And to me, I thought I'd be way, 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 way farther than where I am right now. But reality is what reality is, right? So, and I think the other thing to think about as well is just that I realize that everything happens in its due season, right? There's definitely times where I felt like that everything I touched turned to gold, everything I reached out for, I got. And so I guess I don't want to get to the point where I'm just ungrateful either, right? Because there are points in my life where I'm just like, I'm extremely proud of some of the things I've accomplished. But even though I'm proud of those things that I accomplished, it still didn't get me to what I really wanted in life. And to be truthful and to be shallow is I just wanted a lot of money. I wanted I wanted financial security. I wanted to make sure that the thing that my family never had, well, we always had enough. I can say for a fact I've never been hungry. I've never been cold or without heat because we had our lights turned off. Now we may have like paid portions of it to keep it on because of laws and legal stuff. Um, but we've never been without lights because we just could not pay any portion. Right? I've never been without food. I've never been without clothes. So like, I haven't been in the worst of the worst. So I can't be 100% frustrated. Well, I can be frustrated, right? But I can't say that I went through the true right? Because I didn't suffer the absolute worst of the worst. But in the same vein, I can tell you as a child, because I guess I'm unique. I can't say that this is something that every child thinks about. This is something that I thought about often as a child. Like for me, the the mental awareness of resources was something that I was always aware of. I never, ever, ever liked asking my mother for things. I never liked asking other people for things. And I never, even then, when I was younger, I hated spending my own money. I always wanted to save it. I always wanted to keep it. An interesting story for a different day in terms of what made me more generous in my older age. But me as a young child, I understood and I operated from a sort of a sense of scarcity. And I remember my earliest, like one of my earliest memories. I remember being around like probably 3 or 4 years old, sitting in my mom's bed crying, and she's trying to figure out why because she just went to sleep, she was watching TV, and I'm just sitting there, and then I'm bawling my eyes out because I'm just like, oh, I'm like, at some point you're gonna die, then my aunts are gonna die, my grandmother's gonna die, and then all it's gonna be is just me and my cousin, and I'm like, how are we gonna pay bills? I'm like, I don't have a job yet. This is me at 4 years old recognizing like feeling stress and lack of resources. And again, I don't even understand why because I had tons of toys. I had tons of food. I had snacks and goodies. It wasn't like there was things that I asked for that I didn't get. Granted, like again, I didn't ask for things very often. So for me, it was just like it was just already this understanding that the world required things of me, and these were things that I did not have. And so I always wanted to make sure that I had access to as much resources as possible. And so for me, it's something that has stuck with me all throughout my development, all throughout my aging process, and it's something that's frustrating to me. I guess it's something that has never left. So at some point, I don't know if the suffering that I'm going through, or the disappointments, or the lack of the lack of I guess my monetary success that I want is an outpouring of that from just my childhood, right? So things to think about, and I guess areas of improvement for me, but it's again it's something that's easier said than done, like much more easily said than turn around. But yeah, so yeah, I think these are fun, more fun videos for me to to put. I don't know how I'm gonna title this because uh, I might just call it just being a man is hard, right? Um, because it's just me reflecting on my 20s, me reflecting on now being 30 and having these regrets. Realistically, that's what they are. They're regrets. Um, so yeah, so it's I think it's something that we all need to think about, right? And I think it's fine to feel frustrated, to feel disappointed, but not to linger there, not to become bitter, not to become resentful. Like, never have I ever gotten to a point where I just resented God, for example. That just never was a thing. While I may have been frustrated with where I was, I never blamed that on God because I always understood that everything that happens is for my good. And if I approach the world from that perspective, things get a lot easier, right? Because then there's a few things that are just outside of my control, right? Um, and I think one of the things that I always try to keep in mind is um, is Philippians the fourth chapter, right? So I always try to keep in mind, yeah, the fourth chapter, the eighth verse. I used to say this all the time, but I just need to meditate more on it now in current days with the way I'm feeling. Where Paul says, like, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good, whatsoever things are of good report, and if there be anything of virtue, um, or anything of praise, think on these things. So it's a lot of things just letting me know that where my mind goes, they're also where my focus and, like, I guess my peace follow. So I focus on the things, all the good things that God's done for me. It'll be easier to deal with some of the when it feels like everything is falling down on you at once. And I think that's where meditation comes in and can be a big thing. And then Paul goes on to say that, like, those things which you have learned and received and heard and seen me do, and the God of peace shall be with you. So again, like I said, when you have your mind going on those things, the peace comes. And it's just hard, right? And so I always pray that I can be like Paul, where he says that, not that I speak in respect of one, or if I have learned whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. He says, I know how both to be abased and how to abound everywhere, and in all things I'm instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. And so he's like, in this Christian walk, you're going to suffer. Like I said earlier in this video, that I know suffering is a part of the game. Um, and then the thing is that I have to be content in all states. And I just wonder, when will the Holy Spirit allow me to really just settle in that comfort, or is this comfort supposed to spur me to some type of action that I haven't done before? Because I definitely don't want to slip into the mistake that I fell into in my early to mid 20s, where my career and these tangible earthly things of the world became my God, where everything took a second seat to God. Where if it was detrimental to my career, I wouldn't do it, right? So feeling like Sundays were a burden because that was the day that other people were getting ahead of me, where either they were resting or working. I'm like, I could be working on that day. um, or whether or not just like cutting out an extra hour of my day where I was just like even put prayer aside because I felt like that I could use that other hour for something else. And I don't want to slip into that mistake where God comes second to a career or anything else. But it's hard to not slip back into that old me where work, status, and financial outcomes take priority. Where if I'm still putting in efficient, focused, hard work and then not getting results that I want, it's hard not to kind of default into just like trying to do more. And I know that again, what I just read to you guys was that the point is to be content because I still have food on the table, I still have clothes on my back, um, I still have some luxuries in life, as in that I get to wear the colognes and stuff that I like to wear. Like I get to still smell nice. Can I buy new ones? No, I can't afford it. It's not in my budget. Um, but um, it would be nice if I could. Those are things I really do enjoy. I don't enjoy designer clothes, um, or really fancy other things like that. But I do enjoy giving. I enjoy helping. I enjoy smelling nice. Um, so it's a level of trying to figure out what where that contentment comes and how to really settle into it without becoming lazy and not forsaking some of the goals and the dreams and aspirations that I've had in the past. So it's a tough role to toggle. And I think that in a day and age where there's so few good masculine role models, it becomes hard because you have these young people who are going to blow up on social media because they look great, they speak well, and they're intellectually engaging. And I definitely used to be one of those people where I would be convincing and debating. But as I've grown older and I've dealt with more people, whether through medicine or just through mentoring people or just through everyday life, living in different cities or being in different places, and bumping into people just telling me their life story. And I just realized that there's an intellectual way to engage the faith, there's logical aspects to faith, there's logical aspects to living life. But that's just only one part of the human experience. If we're meant not to have emotions, we would not have them. And so emotions are very real. They're a part of the human experience. I've learned to kind of accept that. And I've learned how to deal with that and kind of be more mature in that aspect. Some more than what some of these younger influencers you're seeing, where they're like, oh, they speak so well, but they lack that emotional maturity aspect. And I think that comes with experiencing the true expanse of that extreme grief, extreme loss, and extreme joy that comes, or comfort and peace that comes with God. And when you experience that whole gambit of things, you understand the beauty in the things that God teaches us in terms of the things He's experiencing, watching us go through, many of us destroying ourselves. And the many of us finding the joy of finding Him and finding the peace and finding the security that comes with serving God. But yeah, let me see if I can get to this hostage stage, and still chat with you guys at the same time, right? So that's kind of where my brain is right now, and my hope is that the lesson that God is trying to teach me becomes apparent, and that I perform well, and that I please Him, and that people see that despite the suffering and things that I go through, that it still glorifies God. But at the same time, I want to be more than just. I do want to. Well, I can't say more than because that is sufficient. If I can glorify God in everything that I do, that should be sufficient. But I feel that because of the personality type that He's given me and the desires that He's given me to want to do more, to be more generous. And I don't know. I feel like giving me these desires now when I don't have the resources to do so does more to making me more frustrated and more jaded, and sometimes less. Uh, I don't know, less empathetic than I I could be, because in that case, I choose to want to avoid my emotions because it doesn't serve me. It causes more pain than joy or peace. So I don't know. I don't know. And like I said, just because there's very few good male role models in today's age. Um, really didn't have my father around. And even if I did, he wouldn't have been a great role model. They're going to get hostages. Hostages. Stop, stop, stop. Don't kill hostages. Oh, that was terrible. So yeah, there's so few. And the problem is that like I wanna do God proud where, because like in many cases and all throughout the Bible, God identifies as a father. When we think about Christ and his symbolism as being a husband in a marriage, and how we're supposed to glorify and represent him in those manners. And all I can think about is that if I was a father right now, if I was a husband right now, I'll be woefully inadequate. And the bad part about it is not just the fact that the human people that would affect in that case, but how poorly that will reflect on God, right? Be in a situation where your family is depending on you, your loved ones are depending on you, and no matter what you do, what you think of, the plans you have in place, it's in what do you call it? It's inadequate to provide the things that they need, and at a certain sense, it's embarrassing. It's demoralizing. It's I don't know. Sometimes it just makes it just hard. Like, why even try? But then you have you have the personality type where you're just like, uh, well, I can't give up, right? At least go down fighting, right? So yeah, so that's just my rant and my thoughts right now. I think I will probably cut it here. Just see how this video does, because I'm super blown away that one of these videos, the part 4 video, wound up getting 100 views with only 1 subscriber. So I'm trying to figure out what on earth I talked about in that video that made so many people watch it. But yeah, so I'm definitely going to be switching the focus of these videos of just kind of my rants and my random thoughts while I play video games. Probably mostly just this game in general, just because it's easy to kind of mindlessly sneak around and play this. Um, but yeah, so that's just what I have my rant on today. Being a man is hard. Um, doesn't mean crash out. Doesn't mean give up. Doesn't mean there's no use in trying. As Paul told us that whether we are going to be abased or we're going to abound or we're full or we're hungry, he's like, we learn to be content, right? Learn to be content in whatever state we're in. So that's what I want to focus on. That's what I want to meditate on. That's what I want to think about as I go through and go back to work. Um, but yeah, but hopefully this right here was therapeutic for you guys as well. To see yourself as being heard. Know that you're going through a similar thing. You're not alone in this. Um, and just to know that you're heard and it's okay, right? Suffering's a part of the deal. This world is a fallen world, and suffering comes along with the territory. God never promised us a life of ease, a life of absent of suffering. If He did, He wouldn't have decided to have His Son put on flesh, come into this world, and experience suffering as well, right? Instead of just ignoring our suffering or just tossing to the side, He entered into it, suffered with us, carried his cross, endured the beating, endured the mockery, endured the weight of our sin, and chose to bear that burden with us. But luckily, unlike me, we know that God and the sacrifice that Jesus has given us is wholly adequate, even where we're inadequate. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna end that here and talk to you guys